The journey begins with Wood dismantling a common misconception that has pervaded both popular culture and academic thinking. Many of us believe that our actions primarily stem from conscious intentions and deliberate choices. We imagine ourselves as rational actors who weigh options, consider consequences, and then proceed accordingly. Wood reveals this mental model as fundamentally flawed. Through compelling research and everyday examples, she demonstrates that roughly 43% of our daily actions are performed habitually, with minimal conscious input. This revelation serves as the foundation for the book's central argument: changing our lives requires understanding and leveraging our habit mechanisms rather than relying solely on motivation and willpower. Wood introduces us to what she calls the modern behavioral revolution, a paradigm shift in understanding human behavior that integrates both conscious thought and automatic processes. This perspective acknowledges that we operate through two complementary systems. The first involves deliberate reasoning and intention, while the second consists of automatic, context-triggered responses that operate below conscious awareness. Understanding this dual process model becomes essential for anyone seeking lasting change, as it explains why so many well-intentioned efforts at self-improvement ultimately fail. The narrative takes us through the three critical components of habit formation that Wood's research has identified: context cues, repetition, and rewards. Context cues serve as the triggers that initiate habitual behavior without conscious deliberation. These cues can be physical environments, preceding actions, specific times of day, or even emotional states. Repetition transforms initially deliberate actions into automatic responses through a process that neuroscientists call chunking, where complicated action sequences become compiled into single units in procedural memory. Rewards, both immediate and delayed, determine which behaviors become habitualized and which remain effortful. The book explores fascinating research on how context changes disrupt existing habits, creating windows of opportunity for establishing new patterns. Wood shares studies demonstrating that major life transitions such as moving to a new city, starting college, or changing jobs temporarily suspend habitual behavior as familiar cues disappear. During these periods, behavior becomes more aligned with conscious intentions since the automatic pilot of habit has been temporarily disabled. This insight offers strategic guidance for timing behavior change initiatives to coincide with context disruptions. In examining why willpower so often fails, Wood presents compelling evidence that self-control represents a limited resource that depletes with use. The phenomenon called ego depletion explains why even highly motivated individuals struggle to maintain behavior change through force of will alone. Each act of resistance drains mental energy, making subsequent temptations increasingly difficult to resist. Rather than building ever stronger willpower, Wood advocates designing environments that minimize the need for self-control by removing triggering cues for unwanted habits and strategically placing cues for desired behaviors. The narrative takes an intriguing turn when Wood examines the role of friction in habit formation. Any behavior that requires significant effort, whether physical, mental, or social, accumulates what she terms friction. Reducing friction for desired habits while increasing it for unwanted ones emerges as a powerful strategy for behavior change. This principle explains why seemingly minor barriers can derail positive intentions and why small conveniences can facilitate harmful behaviors. Wood shares examples from public health initiatives, corporate environments, and personal strategies that demonstrate how subtle adjustments to environmental friction dramatically influence behavior patterns. The book addresses the complex relationship between identity and habit formation. Wood presents research indicating that habits both shape and reflect our self-concept. When behaviors become habitual, they gradually become integrated into our identity. Conversely, when we adopt a new identity, whether as an athlete, environmentalist, or non-smoker, we become more receptive to behavior patterns consistent with that identity. This bidirectional relationship suggests that identity narratives can either facilitate or obstruct habit change efforts, depending on their alignment with desired behaviors. Wood challenges popular misconceptions about habit formation timelines. The frequently cited claim that habits form in 21 days appears nowhere in scientific literature. Her research with habit tracking apps reveals substantial variation in how long establishing new habits actually takes. from weeks to months depending on behavior complexity, individual differences, and contextual factors. This insight encourages more realistic expectations for behavior change and explains why prematurely abandoned efforts might have succeeded with continued practice. The book examines how social environments influence habit formation through normative pressure, observational learning, and direct reinforcement. Wood explains how habits spread through social networks and how collective behaviors within households, workplaces, and communities can either support or undermine individual habit change efforts. This social dimension explains why isolated attempts at behavior change often fail while changes supported by social context tend to persist. In the latter chapters, Wood addresses strategies for breaking unwanted habits. She explains why simple knowledge about health risks or negative consequences rarely disrupts established habits. Instead, effective habit breaking requires disrupting context cues, introducing friction, changing reward contingencies, or some combination of these approaches. Wood shares research on implementation intentions, specific if-then plans for responding to habit triggers, as one of the most effective strategies for interrupting automatic behavior patterns. Throughout the narrative, Wood weaves in compelling case studies that illustrate abstract principles through concrete examples. We meet individuals who successfully transformed their health, productivity, and relationships by applying habit science. We also encounter those who repeatedly failed despite sincere motivation because they relied on willpower rather than understanding habit mechanics. These stories humanize the scientific concepts while demonstrating their practical relevance. The book concludes by exploring how organizations and policymakers can apply habit science to promote positive social outcomes. Wood examines how choice architecture in physical and digital environments can either facilitate or obstruct healthy, sustainable, and ethical behavior patterns. This broader perspective connects individual habit formation to collective challenges from public health crises to environmental sustainability. Transforming your life through habit science. The wisdom contained in Good Habits, Bad Habits offers profound guidance for personal transformation. Begin by conducting a habit audit to identify which behaviors occur automatically in your daily routine. Notice the triggers that initiate these behaviors, the actions themselves, and the rewards that reinforce them. This awareness alone often reveals surprising patterns and dependencies in your behavioral ecosystem. Leverage context disruptions as opportunities for establishing new habits. If you're relocating, changing jobs, or experiencing other major life transitions, use this period of habit suspension to intentionally design new routines. During these periods, your behavior will more closely align with your conscious intentions since familiar habit triggers have been removed. Design your physical environment to support desired habits. Place visual reminders and necessary equipment where you'll encounter them at relevant decision points. Similarly, create distance between yourself and cues for unwanted habits. This environmental restructuring reduces dependence on willpower by changing the context that triggers automatic behavior. Practice habit stacking by connecting new behaviors to existing automatic routines. If you already habitually brush your teeth each morning, this action can serve as a reliable trigger for a new habit such as taking vitamins or performing a brief stretching routine. The established habit provides both the consistent cue and built-in timing for the new behavior. Manipulate friction to facilitate positive habits and obstruct negative ones. Make desired behaviors easier by removing even minor obstacles and preparation requirements. Conversely, introduce small barriers to unwanted habits. Unplug entertainment devices, store tempting foods in hard-to-reach places, or create brief delays before indulging in problematic behaviors. Focus on creating immediate rewards for behaviors with delayed benefits. Our habit system responds primarily to immediate consequences rather than distant outcomes. If your desired habit produces benefits only in the long term, create artificial immediate rewards until the behavior becomes automatic. These rewards might include social recognition, small treats, or tracking systems that provide immediate feedback. Utilize implementation intentions to intercept and redirect unwanted habit triggers. Rather than trying to suppress automatic responses through willpower, prepare specific alternative actions for when you encounter habit cues. Frame these as precise if-then statements, If I feel the urge to check social media while working, then I will take 3 deep breaths and drink water instead. Harness social context to support habit formation. Share your habit goals with supportive others, join communities practicing similar behaviors, or create accountability structures that provide both encouragement and gentle monitoring. The social reinforcement often sustains motivation through the initial effortful phase until automaticity develops. Practice self-compassion when habit change proves challenging. Understand that occasional lapses reflect the strength of established neural pathways rather than personal weakness. Return to the habit-building process with adjusted strategies rather than abandoning efforts entirely after setbacks. This resilient approach acknowledges that habit formation represents a biological process rather than a test of character. Recognize that identity and habits form a reinforcing cycle. Begin articulating a self-concept that aligns with your desired behaviors. Simple statements like, "I'm becoming someone who prioritizes health," or "I'm developing into a more organized person," create cognitive openness to associated behavior patterns. As you practice these behaviors, they gradually become integrated into an expanded sense of identity. Be realistic about timelines for habit formation. Complex behaviors in challenging contexts may require months of consistent repetition before becoming automatic. Adjust your expectations to prevent premature abandonment of habit change efforts. Consistency matters more than perfection in establishing new neural pathways. Above all, shift your change strategy from willpower-centered approaches to context-centered designs. Rather than trying to force yourself to overcome powerful habit triggers through mental effort alone, restructure your environment to support desired behaviors and minimize exposure to problematic cues. This strategic approach aligns with how our brains actually function rather than how we wish they worked.